Good morning, and thank you for joining us this beautiful Saturday morning. I'm Alera Edu, and this is Sunrise.
I'm Ayo Makine. Good morning, and welcome to the program.
Yes, so something baffled me in the course of the week, and it has to do with SIM card registration. And now, NIN. We had to start registering our SIM cards probably about 5 years ago. And the reason, we were told, or the main reason, was so that they could track who was making which call. But bandits, kidnappers always use telephones, and we have not heard of any of them who has been tracked because the SIM was registered, and any of them who has been apprehended, prosecuted, because he was tracked via this avenue. And I'm wondering, is it that that system doesn't work anymore, or what?
Well, it's one of those things that continues to baffle you.
Yes.
As,
yes.
Where I see those things is in movies. You know, whether or not we're able to make it.
That's not fair.
I've seen it in movies.
Yes, you've seen it in movies, but it's supposed to be reality as well, because we were told that it would work.
You know, there are so many things I see in movies. I watch a lot of sci-fi.
Logically, it should work.
Yeah.
Okay, my number is this, and my name is attached to it. So even if it is Ayo who makes a phone call, they know that that call came from Alero's number.
Those things.
So interrogation will begin from Alero.
It is actually possible. It's not rocket science. It comes with the technology.
But when you say you only see it in movies.
Well, I've only heard about them. You're asking the same question that I'm wondering myself. I mean, over and over again, we've heard that there's bandits, kidnappers, make calls,
yes,
okay, to people, and they have conversations, and that they have not one single person has been paraded as having been caused for using phone. Now, that definitely is something that will give anyone concern. So I'm wondering, you know, how in the universe we're able to look at those things, you know, and still be saying to ourselves, how does this really happen? So I guess that's just one of those things that we'll have to question we'll have to put to the authorities, especially those who use technology. I know we have a cybercrime law, and I also know that, I mean, if it's telecommunications, these things ought not to be rocket science. It's something that should be easily, you know, traceable. There is a DSS, there is a cybercrime law, there is the police, there is the NCC who have all of these data, all of these records, and also it shouldn't be rocket science. Why it is not happening, perhaps then we now begin to ask questions. Hopefully, maybe when we have our guests in the studio this morning, we can also put that same question to them.
Because it's part of it's a security issue.
Yes, it definitely is. And that, as you said correctly, is the reason, part of the reason, you know, that this is happening. I think maybe it's also in the arrangements that we have had. You know, the president has spoken quite a number of times. And a number of security agencies are also baffled as to why security agencies do not collaborate. It's not significant enough to deter the insecurity, and it is definitely baffling.
I remember a word that I learned many years ago from Pat Utomi. He said there should be more competition, which is cooperation as well as competition. But our security agencies seem to be competing all the time. And people have said many times, security experts have said that more results would be arrived at if there was more cooperation between them.
Which was the reason the president also said, I think it was in 2019, as baffled, almost as baffled as we all were at the time, like, look, guys, you should find ways of ensuring that you collaborate so that we can have better results. How much of that has been heard and taken to heart by security agencies. I guess that's also left to see. You know,
that's a talk for another day, isn't it?
Yeah, many people don't know, and we have heard it from the NDLEA recently. The NDLEA is a security agency. The Customs Service is a security agency. The Immigration Service is a security agency. So when I hear that there are illegal immigrants into the country, I'm asking the question, where was Immigration Service? There are between 300 million and 350 million illegal arms, small arms in the country. I'm wondering, how did they get in? Where are the Customs Service at the time that they were getting in? Okay, we ought to be having conversations with the local communities, the indigenous communities, so that when these illegal immigrants come in and smuggle stuff in, they can say, no, not in my country, not in Nigeria. Are we having that kind of conversations with them? Where is the NOA? Oh, did I say that out loud? So, no, I didn't say that.
I think we ask that question almost every week.
I don't want to ask that question
We
anymore.
never get an answer, so it's time for us to give up, huh?
It would seem like the heydays of mass mobilization in the country is gone.
Mamsa.
You know? And it's not taking a good... Okay, you said you had an experience in the course of the week.
Oh, yes. Driving in traffic. Chock-a-block, bumper-to-bumper traffic. And sadly for me, I was listening to a program on a particular Lagos station, which was discussing traffic robberies in Lagos. Oh my God. It had a terrible effect on me because I became paranoid. I grabbed my iPad and my telephone and hid them away in the car. And I was tense, and I became more attentive because they were saying in the program that you need to be alert so that when they do come, you have the presence of mind to know the right thing to do and not endanger your life. I mean, your life is already endangered, yes, because they're sticking a gun at you. Yeah. Just take whatever they're asking you for, give it to them, and let them go. It's better for you to give it to them and stay alive than they kill you and still take whatever it is that they came for. So I said to myself, a woman driving alone, which they said on this program as well, is a sitting duck. So what does that mean? So women should not go out alone anymore? Women should not be seen driving alone? Is that what they're saying?
You know, the only thing that, and that's not the only, incidents of such that you hear in Lagos in particular. I mean, for God's sake, I saw a video making the rounds of a young man who was just going to do a delivery. He was robbed. And then many vehicles in a standstill traffic, as you were in, many people were robbed, vehicles vandalized. Yeah. You know, I saw that video as well. It only underscored one thing for me.
Unemployment.
Yeah. A huge number of people are very, very unemployed. So, and the governor of Ekiti State, many security, analysts have said over and over again that one of the top causes of insecurity in the country is unemployment. It is through poverty. We saw in the news, I think it was Yobe State, or which state was it, that bandits were luring, were recruiting people in the community with 20,000 naira. And this is not unknown to us. This information is known to security agencies. Before it can make it to the front pages of the newspapers, for God's sake, I'm pretty sure that the agencies would know about these things. How do we get ahead of the story as supposed to react to it? There's something that I say often and often. The job of security agencies is not to fight insecurity. The job is to prevent
That's
insecurity.
Right.
So
that's right.
How now have we lost the battle of prevention? And now leave ourselves to chance and just say the only thing else that we can do right now is what? Fight? Over and over again?
Fight.
I don't know.
We've thrown our arms up in sheer exasperation. We seem to have given up. And all this talk about removing 100 million people from poverty by X number of years, we don't see any serious effort towards this. Those who employ large numbers of people are factories. And we are still in the, among the countries that don't make their country favorable for businesses to thrive.
If you
Instead, companies are leaving our shores.
If you had the opportunity, if you were able to listen to Sunrise Daily yesterday, you would hear a guy talking about how the various first, second, and third revolutions buried the Nigerian economy, and we seem to be, putting ourselves up and saying, you know what, we're at sea, what can we do? So long as the thing we prioritize is importing the things that we need as opposed to producing the things that we need, we can't get people into jobs. Factories, they employ a large number. But then that's also, so do the MSMEs, the micro, small, and medium enterprises, who recruit 5 people, 10 people.
They're not thriving.
They're not.
And coronavirus came and did its own number on them. So many of them have died.
There's a lot more on our hands now, and I just hope that we know what the issues are and we're able to deal with them.
Okay, so we shall start today's program by looking at, well, everybody's been talking about it, towards a just Nigeria. Is that a mirage?
Why are you talking about restructuring? It's just a question. I'm not.
We'll look at that this morning, and we'll have an informed panel to help us through that.
Well, perhaps in the same vein, one of the things that we have that binds us together is culture. So what role does that play in development? We'll be able to take a look at that one as well.
And then you may remember that at this time every year, we have these medical visitors. AMPA Medical Mission to Nigeria, and AMPA stands for, I think it's Medical Practitioners in the Americas, who come to Nigeria and do wonders. Unfortunately, they cannot be here on a permanent basis.
And I hope they'll also bring the technology. I've known about telemedicine now for some 15, 20 years. Anyway, then we'll have the artist of the week. It's
He's a he.
Are you sure about that? I'm just asking. I don't know. Maybe it's a shim or a hish.
There he goes. There he goes. Now he is Ayo. He hasn't been Ayo all morning,
my name.
Our guest could be a shim.
My name. Ask Jones Usain. He will tell you that.
You may be part of this program either via email or Twitter. Our Twitter handles will be showing on your screens very soon. See you in just a moment. Thank you for joining us this morning. We shall now get the show on the road. The state of the nation has been worrisome, and that has been over a few years now. And some have called for restructuring. Some are saying that a breakup of Nigeria is the best thing. All kinds of things have been cropping up. But which way Nigeria?
That's Sonny Okoson's right there.
Right. So we have a panel of 3. 2 of them are with us here in our studios in Lagos. It's my pleasure to welcome Oscar Osai, Bishop, the City of Refuge Ministries. Morning.
Good morning.
As well as, Pastor Laddie Thompson, who is a security consultant.
Pleasure is always mine.
Morning. Thank you for joining us.
Would that even be the Security Church of Nigeria?
I didn't hear anything. And we shall also be joined by the former APC chairman in Taraba State, Ambassador Hassan Ado Toko. But let's get the show started in Lagos. We have 2 people in Lagos, and we shall go on with them. Let me begin with you, Bishop. There have been all kinds of calls. Restructure, let's break up, We want this republic. We want that republic. We're looking at how to build a just Nigeria where no one feels cheated. Where do you think that journey should start from?
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. The first thing is, what does these agitations imply? What does it show? It's a reflection of dissatisfaction with something. So if you ask me what I think we should start from defining those dissatisfactions. Leadership need to find out, why are there so many agitations? What is driving these agitations? I'm therefore implying that where we should start from is the definition of terms. We have sociologists, we have anthropologists, we have political scientists. We have so many of them in all the universities and in all the spheres of governance. Have they gone into a critical research into what is driving these agitations? There must be a reason. People are not crazy. There must be something that they are worried about. What is it? I think that leadership has been unable to define the problem. A problem well defined is a problem more than 50% solved. That's my view.
But what do you think is driving such agitations?
We are looking for a just society. We are looking for egalitarianism. We are looking for a place where I can pursue my definition of joy and satisfaction and ambition in a setting where there is rule of law. Now, do we have that? If we don't have that, why don't we have it? I think it's expecting too much to beat somebody, for instance, and think that the person shouldn't cry.
Or tell the person not to.
Or tell the person not to cry.
But we do that to our children.
Well, is it fair?
No, we don't tell them not to cry.
You beat the guy and say, friend, that was, is that what you see, Pastor Thompson?
Well, I think he has laid a very good foundation. And the only thing I think I can add to that is that we must not be surprised that there are calls for this breakups. And like he said, we just need to look at the root cause. Yes. Now, I will speak clearly that they should have been expected. We're a nation at war. It's a new kind of war. It's terrorism, the clinical use of terror. Now, all men everywhere are motivated by two things, pleasure and pain. The dread of pain and the anticipation of pleasure. When you get to a point where the trickles of blood have become torrents, floods of blood, you see, the instinctive reaction of the average person, you see, because what terror does to you is that it breaks your spirit, it shuts down your initiative, you are not thinking clearly, you become instinctive. So the first thing that people normally do when they face this kind of threat is their memory goes back to the last time they were safe. And then people look for the future in the past, instinctively. Now, I must tell you that the people who are behind the war against terror in Nigeria expect this. It's an anticipated move. They know that the call for IPOB would increase, the ESN, the call for Dua Republic, and all that. They already know this. They've anticipated it. And frankly speaking, if we in the country, and I speak from a bipartisan perspective now, we can't afford divisions anymore in this country. If we say with everything going on in this country, we did not expect these calls, there must be something wrong with us. So, are the calls justified? There's too much bloodshed around. The value of human worth is going low. Down. Media has been used as a force multiplier. The terror is gripping the hearts of people all over the country. So why wouldn't people naturally
agitate,
want to go back to what they believe is a safe path?
But, Pastor Thompson, this agitation is not new. If I remember vaguely, it dates back many decades. in this country, can you trace how far back we have come and what ignited it in the first place?
Let me just quickly borrow from Obafemi Awolowo to answer you. This is very simple. Yes, the whispers have always been a part of Nigerian history. I think Awolowo in 1968 mentioned something. Obafemi Awolowo did say that that the joys and the progress of Nigeria is indivisible. So also our tragedies and our misfortunes. And then he went on to say that it is imperative that there are two things that have to be done immediately. Number one, he said we need to look at the fact that there's a disintegration going on in the country. We inherited it.
As far back as 1968.
He made that comment. He said we need to halt it and unite Nigeria. Then on the second level, he said something equally important. And he used the word recrudescent. He said there are internecine hostilities. There are cracks, cultural cracks, religious cracks, you name it. And they keep recurring. And he said we need to go after these things and make sure that we put a stop to these recrudescent hostilities. So if he said that in 1968, and you want to remember that he also made another comment, a statesman made a comment that nobody will argue that the country we inherited was actually created by the British. And that when we inherited the country, we inherited it with the forces of its own disintegration within it. And said there are three things we need to do. We need to halt, neutralize those forces of disintegration. We need to define and protect the Nigerian heritage. And then the third thing I think was make life meaningful, protect people and give them a hope for tomorrow.
But if I can just quickly, get some clarity.
Yes.
The Civil War, Nigerian Civil War began in 1967.
Yes.
And he made these comments that you're talking about in 1968.
Yes.
Could it be because we were already the unity was being threatened at the time?
Well, he had already made this statement also, similar statement in 1964, the second one I made. We inherited these cracks, but there have always been whispers. We survived the Civil War, and let me use this opportunity to clarify something. There are some generations going around crowing that because they fought a Civil War, therefore maybe it gives them a right to speak about Nigeria's future. I think we should also again listen to what Obafemi Awolowo said about that. Just after the Civil War, he said, well, we're trying to recreate a new nation. We need to keep it in mind as a cardinal point that yes, we had patriotic principles for which we fought to keep the country together. But he said whether you articulate it in your brain or not, you had better realize that the primary reason we did it goes beyond patriotism. It's economic, it has to do with security, it has to do with an assurance of a future. And so
all of which are shaking.
Nobody who should be talking about, Gawan said something good. To keep Nigeria one is a task that must be done. But Awolowo was now clarifying with his own clarity of thought that yes, but the primary reason we are keeping Nigeria one is for a better life for all of us.
Not just for the political permutation of it. I suspect you wanted to add something to that.
Well, we need to always keep in view that the nature of man is such that a man is at peace if there is security. A lot of times, governance in Nigeria have defined security from the angle of buying arms or force, maybe because of our military experiences. The reality of the situation is that economic security is a real fundamental issue. Security of life and properties. That I am assured that where I live, my children can go to school and come back decently, will give me a certain security whereby I begin to think about the nation in a positive sense. Now, we have lacked all of this. All of the comments my co-panelists here mentioned defines what we are saying. These are words. I'm trying to bring it down to reality. Are you sure that you're guaranteed that this job you're doing, that you're being paid for, can give you a life that is worth living? Are you sure that you can enter your car and drive to where you're going to and come back safely? Now, once these fundamental issues are not addressed, it goes back to the original way man thinks, the id stage, the superego stage of human existence, is what is playing out. So if people are responding to it, I am surprised that anybody is surprised about what is happening.
Pastor Ladi, for some, the whole crux of the matter, the beginning and the end of it all, is our constitution, which tells a lie of itself. We, the people of Nigeria. And some are saying, we, the people of Nigeria, did not sit down and agree all these things in the constitution. So let's start from there. Let's adjust this book, which is the grand norm that defines how we live together as one in this nation. What would you say to such people?
Well, again, I think we want to be very realistic.
Yes, let's be practical.
In most nations, you form a state based on the fact that certain needs to be met. There needs to be a cooperation.
Yes.
There needs to be an assurance of security from external aggression and from internal disorder. And that's the reason why states are put together.
Yes.
Now, the truth is this. Nigeria's history was never like that. We were put together as a colonial convenience. We were coming out of slavery, human slavery, and from there we moved into colonialism. And what colonialism did for us was to diplomatically create a problem for our future. So I want
Which is where we are at now. That future has come.
Now, the future is here now. So I want us to be as pragmatic as possible, because a constitution, no matter how verbose it is, the American Constitution, if I remember how many words it is, it's not very long. The Nigerian Constitution, I think, is 70-something thousand words or so, or thereabouts. A constitution is not worth the paper it is written on if it doesn't have a foundation. Now, the challenge we have here is that we are yet to agree that Nigeria had liberating fathers. But they themselves, if you listen to the speeches of Zik, you listen to the speeches of Tafawa Balewa, especially his address at the United Nations on the 7th of October, 1960, you'll find out that including Obafemi Awolowo realized that they were prevented from laying a foundation for a nation. And what prevented them, if you look at a lot of their notes, they laid it down that they hoped that in the future, Nigeria would find real founding fathers who will come and do this job. And this is where, again, I want to come to the Southwest, because I think the Southwest is the solution to Nigeria's problem right now. And if you look at me and say to me, Pastor Ladi, why would you say a thing like that? I don't want political correctness. I want us to have a future. In the Southwest, our civilization has always been based on value to human worth. The Omoluabi ethos. We value life. Once we get to a place where you no longer value life, we are watching you.
That's actually human nature.
Our civilization is more than 1,600 years old. I'm not one of the people who has an inferiority complex. I thank God I'm African. Although in the 7th, 8th century triggered something, by the 15th century it had peaked. When Frobenius came to Ile-Ife in 1910, he picked artifacts that were taken to Europe, and when they carried out their tests, they agreed we were ahead of them, at least pre-Renaissance Europe. Awolowo was 10 golden years. Obafemi Awolowo, what they call the 10 golden years, created a Western region that is the equivalent of what Dubai is today. Now, what did Awolowo do? What Awolowo did was that he studied Oduduwa's program, and he gave it an analog upgrade by introducing telephony, modern roads, education, and things like that. Now, our people have been a part of the Nigerian, togetherness, and we have all sacrificed a lot. But when we begin to get to a place where the very foundation of what defines us as a cultural nation begins to be challenged, Nigeria has to be very careful. Because I think the way forward, interestingly, for me, when a lot of people are talking right now about the Oodua Republic and IPOB and all that cries that have been around, I don't necessarily agree that that is the way to go right now. And I will tell you why. If you look at what the war against terror has done, it's infiltrated us. We have entered the 4th phase. They have anticipated this breaking. In fact, because of the fact that people are being killed, blood is being shed, by 2017, 2018, we started having meetings with elders, both Igbo and Yoruba elders. And I remember we had sent a team to London to go and check declassified colonial documents. And one of the things we were able to prove to people like Professor Banji Akintoye, I remember having a meeting with him 2017 or 2018 with Padi Banjo, as well as with people like Ebitu Kiwe and Izefe and you know, the full works, under the captaincy of Dr. Christopher Kolade and Professor Aya. And we showed everybody
and this Obiozo,
that in the beginning, Igbos and Yorubas never had any problem with one another. Those FX Hausas and Igbos never had any problem. The problem was engineered by people who had more sense than us. The divisions were engineered, and we showed them that it's a programming. And this is what they have that we don't have. We are programmed to fight one another. The Igbos are programmed to call for Biafra. We are programmed. We can't be looking for the future in the past.
So, Bishop.
Yes.
This is it's like it would seem like everybody who is thinking right, so to speak, would say it's perhaps repeat what General Gowon said many years ago. Trying to keep Nigeria one is a task that must be done. Just very recently, Obasanjo, Tinubu, even the vice president are all saying all this idea of breaking away, we don't want to hear it. I also remember, I think the Igbo Nation as well, forgot the name of the group now, under Chief Nwodo, also said the same thing.
Ohaneze indeed.
Thank you very much.
You're really finding it difficult to...
No, he just took my mind. At least I remember his name. I remember the name. It's not a name that I forget.
No, please go ahead.
My apologies about that. It's not. Well, maybe because I'm not wearing my Obiago today. You know, but you know, everyone, even the Northerners on was it on Friday or Thursday last week? In Thursday in the course of this week, we also had a Northerner who was also saying, look, all these idea of breaking away shouldn't even be sung anywhere in the North, much less in any part of the country as well. So, talking from these angles and all of these people talking about this, where should the leadership come from as concerning a just Nigeria? We have that logo under the shield: unity and faith, peace and progress. But it would seem like those are the exact things we don't have.
I think I want to quote Bible.
After all, you're a bishop.
Psalm 133 has 3 verses. Verse 1, how beautiful it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. Forget verse 2, jump to verse 3. It says, for there God commanded thee blessings. It is in the place of unity that blessings begin to flow. Now, the fundamental error remains that we mouth our need for unity. We pretend, I like what he said. Say, I don't want to be politically correct. I don't believe in political correctness. I'm an Igbo man, anybody can do anything about it. I'm not negotiating my Igbo-ness. I carry my Bible anywhere, I got my green passport, I don't feel inferior to anybody. But the fact is, let those who have been opportune to come to a place of leadership believe in this unity. Because their behavior does not suggest they believe in it.
And who are you referring? What class of people
leadership, any you want to look at it. Listen, the people who are agitating or projecting secessionist tendencies, why? What are you asking for? Okay, why can't we bring every person together and say, okay, my friend, what is this thing you're saying? Explain it to us. What exactly is it you don't have that you think you should have? Let's put it on the table and discuss. Can I tell you? Are you aware that in the United Kingdom, some of the parts that make up the kingdom are asking for freedom to live? Even in America. Are you aware that California and Texas are saying we don't want to be part of the United States anymore? But it's a conversation that is ongoing. It's only our own that we start boxing and, somebody said that ETC means the end of thinking capacity. When thinking capacity ends, we resort to violence.
Pardon me.
I'm therefore saying, let's have conversations. Let's talk.
is...
But we did. We did.
Let me ask,
And the
based
results
on
were
your question.
jettisoned.
You
We had
asked
a conference.
You had a question. You asked the question the other time of Pastor Laya. Now, I want to post it to Bishop. She mentioned the Constitution, and that perhaps that's also the basis of that conversation that we had in 2014, and even previously in 2005, saying that the Constitution is they the people, not we the people. Do you think it is a place actually where we should begin to have conversations, or do you think what we have, the provisions we have, are even significant to start anything?
Again, I'm agreeing with my here. The issue is not the Constitution, in my view. You know why I think so? How many aspects of the Constitution of Nigeria are we jettisoning, even in leadership today? It's not the document that's the problem. The problem is the will of man. The problem is man's will to adopt the provisions. Typical example. A lot of people are complaining about appointments. Can we be plain? Let's talk plainly. The Constitution makes provisions for, what do you call it? Federal character, isn't it? Now, those who are implementing Constitution today, are they obeying the spirit and the letters of the Constitution? You understand what I'm saying? Now, it will be unfair to expect me not to have a feeling of dissatisfaction. Now, if I'm expressing dissatisfaction, what do I expect you to do? Call me and say, this is what I'm seeing. I believe that this is the way I should go. Then you should be telling me, no, don't go that way. Then there can be a conversation. My problem with Nigeria is that we don't talk to each other.
But
what about those conferences which we held? I mean, maybe the results didn't come to much, but we had those conversations.
Did we agree? What is the purpose of a conversation? Should there not be a meeting of the minds? Where did the minds meet? What was the result of the meeting of the minds, as a result of which we can go further from where we are?
The minds met. They had conversations.
So where's the result?
They had results. They had papers produced.
Have you seen anyone being discussed further?
Perhaps that is the
or
issue.
Implemented?
Perhaps that is the issue now. So now we have a an ongoing conversation, so to speak. It's the National Assembly. Every nook and cranny of the country is represented there within that National Assembly. 109 senators, more than 300 members of the House of Representatives. Those are always there. Do you see any role for them towards a just Nigeria?
If we want to be honest with ourselves, we are talking about a just Nigeria. How much of a just Nigeria can I expect when a proposal to the effect of a Southeast Development Commission for months have been under consideration and nothing came out of it, but the Northeast Development Commission came up in the same National Assembly and it was passed into law in less than a month? These are facts. I am not, to the best admission, I am an honest person. I'm a preacher. Preacher of righteousness and verity. We walk by the truth. Let's just say what the truth is. The truth is that we project a desire for unity, a desire for peace. But in real behavior, I don't. It's non-existent.
Okay, let's talk about
You're
it.
talking about actions.
Actions that show that what you're saying is you mean it.
Okay. Now, Festus has made this comment. This government has made our country more unequal. For example, PMB has appointed 3 IGPs, all from the north. If he is sensitive to the feelings of other regions, he should have appointed the new IGP from another part of the country.
Those are some of the issues. Those are some of the issues. I sincerely do not think that it is intentional. I want to believe it's not intentional. It's more comfortable for me to believe it's not intentional. But the fact of the matter is, your intention and the people's reading of your intention are two different things.
But you know, that, on the one hand,
Indeed.
on the one hand, we have, you know, the politics of development. On the other hand, are the practical things that people do or should do. I remember when this government first came in, one of the things that statements attributed to the vice president was that the civil service needed some work. And the civil service is one that is supposed to maintain government in transition, you know, and but it would seem like for me, the civil service is like the engine of a vehicle. Politicians, they are like all the facade that we see, you know, but the headlamps and all those things that people see, that's the politics of it. But the engine, the internal workings, the wiring that makes the vehicle move and work and all is the civil service. Do you see that happening? Well, I'll let you answer that question when we return from this break. Do stay with us. Well, thanks for staying with us. We're still talking about a just Nigeria. And I remember, well, of course, we still have a panel of guests here, but let me stay with you for a moment, Bishop. In the course of the week, I remember reading a story attributed to the governor of Ebonyi State, where he said that all of the insecurity that we're having isn't something that just happened on us recently. It is as a result of things that were not done by past leaders of many years ago to prepare the youths of that time for leadership now. Well, the question that came to my mind at the time, and I don't know if you have any answer to it, is do you see us doing anything now to prepare the youths of today for the leadership of the future and the consequences if we don't?
Well, first of all, let me disagree with the governor. We made you a governor so that you can deal with the matter on ground. No explanation is acceptable. Now, talking about us now, Nigeria has a population of youth. I mean, a majority of our population are youth, 65%. You're talking about a population of 200 million, 65% of 200 million, we're looking at about 130 million young people. What is their future? What is the definite program we have to prepare these young people for the future? Look at our economy. While we are at that, are you aware that politics out there in the world today is driven by economic policies? Nobody's still talking about the type of things we're talking about here. The issues are broader: artificial intelligence. The issues we have in other nations, in developed nations, artificial intelligence, how you can use your economy to drive national development. But what we are battling with here are basic issues. Mundane issues. Issues that nobody thinks about abroad. Now, what I'm saying is that our situation is progressively degenerating. Because the population is growing and the projections we need to make to take care of a developing population are not in place. What is the size or the number of Nigerians that will graduate from universities this year? Does anyone have the figure? What are the jobs they are going to do when they graduate? More companies are shutting down.
Downsizing.
Downsizing.
And
Foreign direct investments are reducing. Are you aware? Therefore, things are looking bleak more and more. My answer to your question is that it is getting worse by the day.
Pastor, there will be some who will tell you that this unemployment issue is compounded by the fact that many of these young people do not want to do certain jobs. For instance, when Fashola was governor of Lagos State, we heard of a program that he had to take some of them off the streets and go and teach them some trade. Many of them ran away from these centers where they were being taught some vocational thing which they could at least use to feed themselves, if nobody else, and they ran away. So what is to be done to the psyche of the young man so that he will realize that there's no shame in being a plumber as long as you can feed yourself from it and not have to steal. There's no shame in being a bricklayer if it puts food on your table. But everybody wants to get rich overnight. Everybody wants to ride a Jeep.
For me, again, I guess the way I think is different. First and foremost, there's nothing wrong in everybody wanting to be millionaires. The only thing is, be legit. What is a good economy? A good economy is an economy that gives you the opportunity to be what you want to be within the limits of the laws that exist. I'm an Igbo man, I keep saying. I see opportunities everywhere. Why can't the nation begin to argue in terms of making Nigeria a hub in the sense that if 10 international airlines are headed to Africa, you can be sure that Nigerians or people who have things to do in Nigeria will be about 8 of them or 7 of them. Why can't we make Nigeria a hub in international travel? Insist, this is about policy. If my people are 70% of those traveling, I am insisting that my place should be the port of destination. The same thing with shipping. How many ships leave Europe or America or Asia for Africa? How many of those ships are headed to Nigeria? Why can't the policymakers insist and say, well, this economy is a big economy. We therefore insist that Nigeria should be the first hub in shipping. Do you understand what I'm saying? All of these are opportunities that we keep losing. The policymakers are making us lose opportunities that we ought not to lose. And these opportunities will affect the opportunity, I mean, what do you call it? Job creations. So that people are busy. The Igbo man can go to the moon if you give him ladder to get there. All he needs is the ladder. Give him the ladder then. That's what I'm saying.
But you know, there's something that we began to talk about, and I think it is it's something that I'd like to ask you know, Pastor Thompson as well about this. You know, is a national ethos. Mm-hmm. When after the Civil War, the government of the day said to keep Nigeria one is a task that must be done. It was a very, very popular and public
declaration.
Yes. Everybody literally keyed into it.
Bought into it.
Everybody followed that path. Everybody talked about it. Mm-hmm. And I remember during the 2019 elections, one of the things, it was a question around the leadership recruitment process in the country. So, Pastor Thompson, if we're going to talk about, you know, in terms of using national ethos for development, do you see us playing that role well enough? Do you see what because unless we're able to carry people along, unless we're able to give people a sense of belonging, there isn't anything to believe in. So in terms of carrying people along, how do you think we can begin that conversation? He talked about 65% of Nigerians today being young people. And if you do a nationality test or nationalism test now, I don't know if many people, many of the youths will be seeing things the way we are seeing them now. So in terms of carrying the young people along, For the sake of the future, what do you see us doing?
Let's quickly answer that again. It's something we've settled many times on air. By deliberate design, there's a process that produces a Nigerian. There's an enculturation program that produces an Igbo man. There's an enculturation program that produces a Hausa man. There's an enculturation program that produces a, quote, Yoruba man. Now, as long as you design the enculturation program for the cultural nations to be more beneficial than the program that produces a Nigerian, you will never have a nation full of patriots. Now, we can learn a lesson from the United States of America. And I made this claim earlier on. I said the answers to this is in the Southwest. And I want to establish this clearly. Of the first 5 presidents in America, 4 of them came from Virginia. The first 5. Why? It was actually the Virginians who developed the program that helped America to develop. But nobody would say that, oh, because it's Virginians, therefore we couldn't take it. They persuaded the 13 colonies. What I'm bringing out is this. In 1980, let's solve these problems practically. Again, I go to Professor C.O. Taiwo, who was launching a book on education in Nigeria. And one of the quotes in the book said that as of 1906, the gap between northern Nigeria and southern Nigeria was 50 years in education. By 1980, it had gone to 75 years. And by projection, by 1990, it will go to 100 years. And the comment was that the moment that gap exceeds 100 years, the results will be too gruesome. Now, that was even reckoning without this global terrorism war. So at this point in time, I'm insisting that if we really want to get these things right, what the Virginians did is what the Southwest needs to do. And right now, when I listen to people talking, I'm still yet to find anybody who thought as well in the Southwest as Obafemi Awolowo's architecture of thought. In 1952, July 16th, he said something. He said, we must make this our aim now. He said, we must aim to create a totally new nation. A new nation that is more noble in concept. A new nation that is more artistic in design. That is, in bringing together all the groups to contribute their best. More imposing in structure and extent than anything that has entered the mind of anybody before. What he said in 1952 is more applicable today. If we don't want Nigeria to disintegrate, all this English we are speaking, all this whatever, patching here, patching there, listen, let's stop finger pointing and go back to what he said. We need to create a new nation.
Well, you said something earlier, and I think it is also, important for us to give a little attention to that. How do we re-engineer the different ethnic nationalities to begin to think Nigerian as opposed to thinking Igbo, thinking Yoruba, thinking Hausa?
Again, it has become a lot simpler for us. And that's why I insist that the Southwest holds the key to this. When Awolowo put an analog upgrade on what Oduduwa did, all we need to do today is to bring a digital upgrade. In a digital upgrade, it means that when Awolowo was looking at telephony and things like that, we are looking at artificial intelligence. We're looking at deep learning, nanotechnology, quantum computing. Do you know that today we can hold a proper conference for an accord that will cost 5% or whatever it is that has ever been done? The 2014 was interesting, but don't forget that the age gap there was remarkable. And that even if you go with the 2014 right now, a younger generation is going to tell you guys that, look, you are moribund. Yes. So I believe that what we need to do again is to bring a digital upgrade to what Awolowo did online. We can sit down and hold all these talks. Everybody can participate. We can establish what is right and condense the documents. It won't cost us $500 million. It won't even cost 200 million.
Well, Bishop, agreeing to go with one ethnic nationality, so to speak, will be a hard sell for all the nationalities in Nigeria, don't you think?
It will be, but there is nothing as good as a good idea. If what you're bringing to the table will help every person pursue their definition of satisfaction, why will it not be acceptable? The problem is when there's nothing on the table, and you're asking me to keep following. Am I making any sense? There's nothing on the table.
What we have in common with the Igbos the Igbo nation and the Odua Morabi nation, have a lot more in common than what we have that makes us differ. In fact, when we look back, I told you, I mean, we were talking earlier on, I mentioned Oladoa Ikiano, who wrote a book in 1789, the first bestseller.
Igbo slave.
Igbo slave who was captured in Iseke. And I said, you see, we have a saying, a people who are robbed of their history will settle for any future. If anybody goes to study that book written by that Igbo slave who got his freedom, and you look at the details of Igbo life, you look at the morals, in fact, let me tell you one truth, the engineering of our colonial masters on the Igbos suffered the most.
Of course.
Because if you look at the leadership skills, you look at what the enculturation program that is written in that book, and you look at what the Igbos have today, you'll know that somebody somewhere has done something to the Igbos.
But, Pastor Thompson, the first, what's it called now, capital of the country,
yes,
was in what was then known as the southeastern region. So we can say then that international trade into Nigeria started from the southeast. So how then would you say that the southeast was so much more disenfranchised when the national capital at the time was in what was then known as the southeast?
All we need to do, don't rely on the BDP, which is the British official documents for the construction of the empire. What Nigeria needs to do is to send its own people to the former colonial office, the new CO, whatever it's called in the UK right now. Go and bring stamped secret all the documents by which Nigeria was designed. All these details are there. All the enmities that we have, all the, when you make a people struggle for the same resource, there's a way you can advantage one side. Even the northern Nigeria, southern Nigeria divide was accentuated by British engineering.
Yes.
They did the same to the American colonies.
Okay.
And if the American colonies could have written a new program, look, in the House, I remember after the first constitutional conference, somebody said, was it Thomas Henry or one of the patriots said, we are Virginians no more, Americans we are now. You know why? If every child born in Nigeria is entitled to a certain sum, entitled to free milk, entitled to free medical health care, and certain things because you are Nigerian.
And life is moving.
And your perks as being a Nigerian exceeds that of being an Igbo man.
Yes.
It exceeds that of being a Yoruba man. It will take only 1 decade. Don't be fooled. Humans are always humans. Or less.
But
can I also point this out?
Yes.
There is no nation in Europe where one tribe lords it over another one.
Yeah.
Are you aware? How big is Netherlands? How big is Ireland? Ireland. How big is Sweden?
So, Bishop, how do you take the first step?
The first step is leadership.
As we begin to wind down.
Yes, leadership is crucial because it's leadership that will provide a ground norm that will get us talking. Like these things we are doing. Take it as a town hall meeting. Hey, we have been in this thing for such a long time. We need to begin to talk. Can I tell you the truth? I'm an Igbo man, but sincerely speaking, I prefer Nigeria to remain one. If those who have power will allow it to be so.
Again, so many people have held that position until now. Yes. Incidentally, we hoped to have Ambassador Hassan Adotuko, who is a former APC chairman in Taraba State, but unfortunately, we were unable to have him. Well, maybe the fasting took a little more toll than we expected, but hopefully we'll be able to get him some other time. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Temi has a very interesting comment here. Who is this woman on Channels TV? Did you become a plumber or bricklayer before you got to where you are now? Or would you wish your kids that? You are one of the problems of this country.
Jesus Christ.
You think the younger generation?
See?
That's me.
So
We can't all be professors. We can't all be TV broadcasters. There have to be plumbers in society. There have to be bricklayers. Who would do the plumbing in your house, Madam Temi? Who would do the bricklaying to build your house in Banana Island if there were no bricklayers?
The balance.
You know, I said the other time that we needed to find a way to carry the young along. If we do not, we're working on tethers, wouldn't you say?
But I provided the answer. The answer to this is simple, and that is that we can educate Nigerians to know that there's dignity in labor, that it doesn't matter what you do. I met a guy in America, and I say, hey, your business is good. Let's turn it into a multi-million-dollar project. He said, I don't want that. My joy is doing what I got to do. It pays my bills. But Nigeria is a place where your chosen profession is not given the pride of place it desires. I think that's the answer to that.
Okay. Well, it's your call right now.
Yes, so we need to call it a day on this topic. Thank you very much for coming, Bishop and Pastor, even though somebody says that pastors are the problems in this country because they're teaching the people prosperity. And they're the ones that have caused this get-rich-quick syndrome. But that's a topic for another day.
Let's leave it at that.
Yes, let's leave it at that. Bishop Oscar Osai, Bishop the City of Refuge Ministries, as well as Pastor Laddie Thompson, who is a security consultant. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
God bless you.
Sunrise will be right back with another interesting conversation in just a moment. Do stay with us.
It would seem like that conversation towards a just Nigeria laid the foundation for this one we're about to have, which is culture of development. Because, you know, the cultural policy of a country is central to its development. And Nigeria is a developing country in Africa with a written cultural policy as far back as 1988. And that has been implemented and has contributed to the social, economic, and political advancement thus far. Or has it? Well, those questions we'll answer this time with Akin Ogudiran, who is a professor of Africana Studies, Anthropology, and History, University of North Carolina. He joins us in the studio here. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
People are wondering that it would seem like, because when they think culture, what comes to them is Yoruba culture, Hausa culture, Igbo culture. That's it. Is that all there is to it?
No, there's more to culture than that. Our culture does not have to be ethnicized. However, ethnic origins sometimes give culture the flavor of hankering people. In Nigeria...
Sorry, sir. I also know that scientists use the word culture.
Yes.
The culture of something.
Yes.
Is that the kind of thing you're talking about here?
No, I'm talking about a culture that anchors individual in the world. Okay. When we talk about culture in Nigeria, for the most part, we talk about performances, right? We treat culture as a performance. I'm thinking of culture in terms of knowledge. I'm thinking of culture in terms of consciousness, because we're in globalization. And one of my challenges, or the kind of issues that I try to address, is how can we, as a people, as Africans, as Nigerians, how are we not going to lose ourselves in the morass of globalization, where we believe everything that comes from outside, but we do not introspect and use our own historical, cultural foundations as the platform of our own development? See, that is where I'm coming from.
I'm a bit confused. You are a professor in the University of North Carolina.
Yes.
But you are a Nigerian.
Yes.
So, an American looking at you now would think about, this man is a Nigerian, so he embodies the culture of Nigeria. Yes. So, what would he be looking at when he looks at you and thinks that?
The person will be looking at me as a global man, a global citizen, who is anchored in African culture, who is anchored in African value systems, who is anchored, but at the same time...
Value systems.
Yes, value systems. Yes.
Value systems. Okay. Yes. What else?
And also, who can think across cultural boundaries. See, this is what makes a global... A global citizen doesn't mean that you have to lose yourself to become global. It means that you use the privilege of what you have, your history, the experience of your people, their accomplishment. You use them as the platform to innovate. So culture is not just about tradition, it's about innovations. It's about using that cultural framework to think about the future.
I think we need to go back to school. And I'll tell you why. Because you see, what you're talking about here now, for instance, earlier, in the previous conversation, we talked about the cultural beliefs of people that have, rather than help us develop, kept us stagnant. People see the ethno-cultural divides as more prominent, more paramount than the national. And the conversation we're having this morning is about how culture can or does or not play a role in development. Yes. In which way have we shortchanged ourselves? In which way have we helped ourselves as a country? Because I'm pretty sure you've been following the trends.
Yes, I've been following the trend. My question to the public would be, what is this national culture we're talking about? Do we really have a Nigerian national culture? So this is the crisis of what I call the crisis of post-colony. Many things about the post-colony, not just in Nigeria, in other parts of Africa, is negative because we are a mimicry of colonialism. We have not really decolonized ourselves. So when we talk about national culture, it's the culture of corruption that people think about. It's the culture of violence. It's the culture of oppression of the state using its might to oppress the people.
When we say state, I'm sorry, sir. When we say state, let's decrypt it all.
Yes.
When we say the state hasn't been just one person since 1960.
Yes.
We have had different categories of people, different classes of people, irrespective of their cultural or ethnic identities,
yes,
over the past 60-something years.
Correct.
Everyone has come. Hausas have been in government, Igbos have been in government, Yorubas have been in government at different levels. They have been in the civil service. They have kept one thing or the other going or not.
But the policies have remained the same.
Well, at the end of the day, the policy does not implement itself.
Correct.
It is implemented by these people who have gone through the system, who are supposed to allow the culture to evolve or keep it stagnant. What's our problem here?
Our problem is this. Let's go back. What is Nigeria? Nigeria is a multi-ethnic, multicultural democracy. Or at least that is our aspiration, democracy. But we are multicultural. United States of America, where I live, is not a monocultural country. It is a multicultural country, right? So South Africa is a multicultural country with 11 official languages. So our diversity, our diverse culture is not the source of our underdevelopment. We can create a united Nigeria based on the diversity of our cultures. The problem is we don't have a clear national agenda. We don't have that people can aspire towards. And if you do not believe if you don't have any conviction, you believe in anything. And that's our problem. So I come from the approach that Nigeria as a multicultural state, that is the source of our energy, the source of our strength. So we need to harness these cultural values, these institutions based on knowledge. Now, in fact, I'm now moving away from culture and say, when we talk about culture, let's talk about indigenous knowledge. Indigenous knowledge means that our scientists in the laboratory can develop solutions that meet our problems. Instead of looking out, they can source resources within to address our challenges. See, we don't have to always import everything in. There are things that we can make with our environment has given us everything that we need. You see, but without this consciousness, we will not realize it. And without this consciousness, we cannot move forward. So cultural policy is in the book, but it's not implemented.
When you were speaking earlier, you used two words. You used the word culture,
yes,
and you also used the word tradition. Are they interchangeable? Because if they are, I mean, just off the top of my head, and I remember Fela's song,
yes,
where in the middle of it somewhere it says, culture and tradition. Good.
Yes.
So are they interchangeable? What is our culture?
Yeah.
What is our tradition?
they can be interchangeable. It depends on the context.
Okay.
And tradition is not simply about the past. It's about the present. And it's about innovation. It's not about static. So when those of us who are anthropologists talk about culture, we are not, or sociologists, we are not talking about a static cultural life in the past. You know, as an archaeologist, I study periods from 300 BC up to the present. That's what I do. So I have the privilege of seeing changes, continuities at the same time. And I always say that our policymakers, they are not grounded in history. This issue of security, for example, that we are talking about, if our policymakers are grounded in history, they will be able to learn about how previous pre-colonial states, empires, kingdoms, how they solved problems of security. That the most important thing that any nation has to its people, the most important responsibility is security. And when that security begins to collapse, you begin to see that the empire will unravel, the kingdom will unravel. It happened to Roman Empire, it happened everywhere. So our policymakers need to really step back. As they are thinking about the future, let them reflect a little bit about the past. So, and that's where tradition comes in. So we need to bring tradition in order to inform the present so we can have a more deliberative, a more successful future aspirations. So these are the kind of parameters in which...
Can you give an example of, from your studies, you're free to pick any part of the country that you want, and just give us an example of the changing culture which you have spoken about.
I study mostly the Yoruba region of West Africa. In fact, I just came back from a 6-week archaeological fieldwork in Oyo Empire. Oyo Empire is a very good example of resilience, history of resilience, going back to about 800 years. Oyo started as a small kingdom, very close to River Niger. As a result of the regional turbulence of the 15th century, it was displaced. They moved to Igbo in present-day Oyo State. But its leaders were visionary. So what did they do? In order to repair the problems that displaced them, they established the first regional network of collaboration with other ethnic groups. The Mosi in present-day Burkina Faso, the Ibariba in present-day Nigeria and Benin Republic, the Wasangari, and many other peoples as far as Mali, to solve their own local problem. You see, collaboration across ethnic boundaries. As a result, they created an empire that was multinational, multi-ethnic. Ibariba, Musi, everybody were part of Oyo Empire. You see? And then, so you can see that clear example. I can also use example of many other groups in Nigeria, the Hausa city-states, and many other ones. So we have a history of resilience. We have a history of collaborating across ethnic boundaries. We have a history of trading far and wide, of innovations in technology. For example, Ile-Ife, in present-day Ile-Ife, that was a center of glass making in the 11th through the 14th century. Glass is one of the highest peaks of technological innovations in any society. Ife is the only place in sub-Saharan Africa, actually outside Egypt, that was producing glass. And they used that glass to establish far-ranging network of commerce as far as the Mediterranean. These are the stories we want our youth to know.
And it is the same glass that they used to buy slaves in this.
Exactly. In fact, if that's the irony of it, right? They were making glass beads. And when the Portuguese arrived in the 15th century, by that time, Ife Empire had already collapsed. They met batches of glass beads among the Shekiri, among the Benin that came from Ile-Ife. They could not replicate it. Because if a glass, no matter how long it has been in the soil, it remains hard when you excavate it.
Now, you said something earlier, Prof, about how we should use our ethnic nationalities collaboratively.
Yes.
But it would seem as if we are torn, in our different divides right now. Yes. even though I remember in the Nigeria's first national anthem, though tribes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Are we in brotherhood now? I mean, because, I mean, you talked about the Hausa, you've talked about the Kanuri, the Fulani, the Shekiri, the Igbo, the Yorubas, and all of that. But it would seem like people are more interested in their different nationalities. So you're 10 so Israel, so to speak, now, as opposed to that national ethos that you talked about earlier.
Yeah, there are two things going on. One, because we've displaced history deliberately, our leaders who knew what they were doing, they displaced history from our schools. Imagine, how do you build a country, and in the process of socializing your children, you make them ignorant of their history? How can you build a future? So that's the first problem. Because these leaders knew that if our children know history, some of the gimmicks they want to play on us will not be successful. So now we have basically two generations who have no knowledge of the past. And let me say this. It is not true that our ethnic differences is the source of our division. It's our politics, it's our national politics that is the source of our division. I just came from Oyoile, the old Oyo Empire. I lived among the Fulani for 6 weeks.
In this same
country.
How many decades ago?
No, I'm talking about last week. I just came back.
You lived among the Fulanis?
Yes.
In Oyo?
Oyoile.
Town.
Old Oyo. Oh, no. Old Oyo Empire. See, Oyo, the present Oyo is different from Oyoile. Oyoile is bush now. It's bush, you know. Okay. Bara, Koso. These are ancient places. They are archaeological sites. Our Fulani brothers and sisters were living there. I've been living
and
with
they don't speak a word of Yoruba?
No, some of them, no.
They now speak Yoruba.
This is the problem. We have many layers of Fulani, and we have to be careful how we talk about these issues, because these people are not going anywhere. They were born here. They speak a little bit Yoruba, but they also speak Fulfulde. They see me as their brother. They were born in that area. I did not lose a single pin. I lived among them. No molestation, nothing. I just put my tent in front of their houses.
Wait a minute. You built your own tent?
Oh, yes. As an archaeologist, I carry my tent everywhere I go with my crew. We have about 6 tents there. We live there among them. We dance at the end of our field work. So our people at the local level, they are interested in peace. Our people are interested in dialogue. But we need leaders to harness the energy at the local level so that we can have dialogue. There are challenges, surely, but I don't believe our culture is the source of our problem. Okay?
So this brings to the fore all that talk about all this being politics.
Oh, yes.
Well, this is a living
I just
example
witnessed it. So
of someone who just returned from the bushes.
The kind of rhetoric we see in our urban centers, I wish our leaders would come with me one day and just go and spend just 2-3 days there. So now, I'm not saying that there are no problems, there are no challenges, but we need to figure out who are the perpetrators. There are bad people in all groups, not ethnic groups. And we have to be careful not to homogenize a problem of security into labeling one group as the problem.
But the challenge here, Prof, is the word is out there already.
It is there.
The word has escaped, so to speak. You know, once any one of these people know, you hear about the politics, and then you just see the next man, you know, the next thing. And of course, what you are saying is what a good number of politicians are also saying, that we should not label any ethnic group as being the one who are perpetrators of insecurity. It shouldn't be done. But the word is out there already.
Yes.
You know, so how do we rein it in?
We can rein it in by being informed. I think it starts from empathy, and empathy is very important, and being informed. Now, there are problems of security because of the socioeconomic dimensions of the country. Until we solve the problem of socioeconomy in this country, there are disparities. Let me give you an example. I live in the U.S. I don't like using U.S. example to transfer it to Nigeria, but I will say this. In the U.S., when you see a pedestrian walking on the street, if you are an Okada rider, you will stop for the pedestrian. to cross the road, you will stop, automatically stop. If you are a car driver, you will stop for the Okada. If you are a truck, you will stop for the car. In Nigeria, it's the opposite. The Okada man expects the pedestrian to run away from the street. The truck driver wants the car driver to physically get out of the road for him. See, we have this problem whereby we don't respect the dignity of our fellow human beings. Until we begin to do that, and that's where the culture of Omoluabi in Yoruba paradigm comes in.
Prof, it wasn't always like that.
That's what I'm saying. It's not always like that, but it is what it is now.
So where did it begin from?
Well, we copied something from the British. When the British came, they were coming from their own top-down society, and they are no longer there like that anymore, by the way. They've changed their own ways, but we have not changed. They brought away, and they saw us as, people of lower status were sent here to govern us, by the way. And they are trying to put themselves on top of us. That's why we say, sir, sir, all the time to everybody. Now, so they created an hierarchy for us. And they socialized our first generation of elite into that British or Western way of life, of top-down control. So,
monarchical.
Hierarchical.
System.
Which is different. Now, in Ife, we always say that Omodegban Agbagban Lafidale Ife. That is the wisdom of the youth and the elders that we use to create the city of Ile-Ife. So that kind of collaborative spirit of dignity, we don't do that anymore. So we have a system whereby it's very oppressive. That's why I say that our institutions are very oppressive. That is the Nigerian state that we have. All our institutions, they are oppressive. So if you have an oppressive institution, you will have insecurity because people are no longer, they don't believe in that institution. So we need that cultural revival of Omoluabi that will respect my fellow neighbor. No matter what you do, give dignity to people. And I think people are rebelling.
How do we begin to do that?
Well,
everything seems to have just gone to pieces.
I had the privilege in 2011 to give a keynote address at the University of Ibadan at a conference in honor of Willy Bayer, the German, Jewish-German cultural anthropologist, after he died. And I titled that lecture, Crisis of Culture and Consciousness in Post-Colony, Which Way for Nigeria?
Before you answer that question or go further, my director is saying he's enjoying it so much, he forgot to call for break. Okay. But we'll do that right now. Please stay with us. Well, thanks for staying with us. So, Prof, you were going to answer a question you asked yourself.
Yes. And I said that I wrote, I gave a lecture at the University of Ibadan 2011 titled Crisis of Culture and Consciousness in Nigeria, in the post-colony, which way for Nigeria. So in that presentation, I laid out a set of issues about our educational system. Your question is, where did we go wrong?
Yeah.
And we went in a different direction after colonialism because we did not really truly decolonize our educational system. You see, our school system is where we are supposed to socialize and bring up a new generation of citizens that will believe in the nation, that will believe in themselves, and that will believe that they are responsible citizens in the global world. But our educational system does not emphasize critical thinking. Without critical thinking, you cannot really understand who you are as an individual, and you cannot fully be a true contributor to your society. Whether you're a scientist, whether you're a medical doctor, you are just there just to make money.
But unfortunately, Prof,
yes,
it is the certificates gotten from those, from that educational system that gets people jobs and stuff like that. How do we begin to even reverse or address all of that?
We started the discussion when we have to hear about dignity of labor, dignity, respect for what people know, not for who people know. You see, when we begin to respect what people know, and we are beginning to celebrate excellence. we're a country of mediocrity today, for the most part, right? Whereby many of our graduates cannot fully innovate on their own, right? Because they have not been given the tools that they need to excel in the world. Let me give you an example. In my university, I did a conference some years ago on African businesses. In fact, the conference was sponsored by EcoBank at University of North Carolina. And these bank managers came, and they were asking me, how can I get students, final year students for them that they can recruit in Nigeria, in South Africa? And I said, why? You have graduates there. They say, because the educational system has not prepared them to become global citizens. And that the investment of what they will invest on those students, on how to speak, how to write, is just too enormous. They want global citizens. Because in my university, we're already thinking about what kind of education are we going to serve our students in the next 10 years. We're already role-playing it now because we are already thinking ahead. So that is what institutions that wants to become leaders, that's what they do. So so this is not an issue about leaders because we always reduce everything to leaders in Nigeria. No, the problem is multi-level. All of us have a role to play in this. So that academics, teachers, parents, policymakers, civil servants, we all need to work together towards, and that's why I'm advocating this idea of cultural revival as the basis of creating society that we want.
Are you therefore saying that they found African students more global than their own? And they thought that they were more global citizens?
That's what they are saying, that they thought that African students who are studying abroad because of the liberal education.
Oh, those who are studying abroad.
Yes.
Not those who are studying here. Okay.
They feel that they will be more global, that they're more global. And I say, no, the problem is not where they are studying. It's about the quality of education that we are serving here. That our students here are eager as well. They can be global. I'm a visiting professor at University of Ibadan as well. And I trained my students here as well. So, and I found them to be competitive. It's how we handle the students. It's what we give them that will make them global or competitive in the world. So we need to go back to the drawing board. If we are going to become a nation that is global, that is going to, because there's nothing you do today that is not going to be global. It is what you bring into that globality that will make you successful or fail.
Well, Prof, I have had the responsibility as a result of what we do here to take a cursory look at Nigeria's education policy. I've also taken a cursory look at Nigeria's national health policy, at least the current ones. And I just want to ask you, if you have as well, even if you have not, what quantum of culture do you think, I don't even know if what I'm saying is of any, semblance, but you might be able to give us a perspective to it. Because there is a way cultures train their children before formal education, so to speak, came. There is a way that the different cultures, the Hausa culture, the Fulani culture, the Igbo culture, had their health systems before modern pharmaceutical ingenuity and the rest of them, modern science and all came. We had science before science came to us, so to speak.
Of course.
How much of that, of our foundation, of our historical privileges, do you see us putting in or should be put in to what we do in the education that you talked about, in the health and various other sectors?
Let me start with the language. Language is an important part of who we are as a people. Without language, there's no philosophy, there won't be any things about ethics, there won't be anything about values. So language is very primary. Because the language in which we think defines how we think. So I always joke to my students when I'm teaching that I'm thinking in Yoruba and I'm translating it into English simultaneously. And that makes me a better person.
That process is quite long.
It's long, but
because I had to
tedious
ask,
too.
I asked a multinational, a staff of a multinational once to speak pidgin. Said, it's difficult. I said, why? He said, I think in English. So I think I understand it better now.
Yeah, but see, our brain is such a very fascinating engine, right? It's amazing what it can do when you think in another one language, because that's why it's possible for some people to speak 5, 6 languages, but they can only think in one. So I have the privilege of thinking in Yoruba because growing up in my home, all I spoke was Yoruba in my home until maybe I get to boarding school. That's when the first time I saw, oh, no, don't speak in vernacular. And I'm like, what is it? And you are beaten for that. You see, so that's another legacy of colonialism, that children are being caned for speaking in their native
own
language, the language in which they think. Because the misconception then was that by speaking in so-called vernacular, they will not be a better English speaker. They will be poor English speaker, which is not true. That kids can learn many languages when they are growing up. So we need to start from that point of view that our languages are very important, because that is what anchors us in place. The second thing, and then from that point onward, many things begin to open up to us in terms of innovations, in terms of ideas. There are many, you mentioned it before, that we're scientists before modernization. When we think about modernization, we always think of Western way of life. And I argue in one of my new books, The Yoruba, A New History, that we were modern before the Europeans arrived to colonize us. Modernity means that we are global thinkers. Whether you are Igbo, whether you are Hausa, we have been networking with different parts of the world before colonialism. So Western world did not bring modernity to us. There was a modernity. In fact, without our modernity, they would not have become modern themselves, because we had a history of about 300 years of slavery, in which...
After all, Don Domingos went to university in Spain in the 1400s.
Correct, correct. You know, so these are the issues and that's why it's important to tell stories, to talk about history, so that our children can become anchored in our history, our culture, our tradition, so they are not embarrassed about our tradition. There's nothing in our tradition that we have done that is worse than what Western society did.
Well, you know, this language thing you talked about, by the way, clearly, if you need a PA in your anthropology, you have one next to you, because she is also as far back as ancient of... Anyway, you said something the other time about language.
Yes.
If you get on the social media now, it would seem to many youths, 65% of them, according to one of our previous guests, since 65% of them make up the Nigerian population today, many of them see our ways, their cultural ways, our traditions, as, what's it called now? Borrow me the English word. Archaic?
Barbaric?
But no, we're not in touch with the times.
Oh, okay.
We're not modern.
Oh, yeah.
Because so to many of them, speaking in what you call vernacular, speaking in their native languages, is backward, is not developed, you know. So persuading them that speaking your native language doesn't make you not to be modern, it's going to be a hard sell.
Yeah.
Now, how do we bridge the gap? Because clearly the gap is there.
Is there. And that's why what we are talking about is actually sad as well and also urgent. Because those 65% youth now, they are in the next 15 years, we expect them to become our leaders. They will be moving into leadership position. And that's why what we are talking here this morning is very urgent, because we need to begin to address that issue. That, listen, there's nothing in this framework of our tradition, our culture, that or language that cannot compete with other languages. In my university where I teach, UNC Charlotte, no matter what discipline you are, which discipline you are studying, you must learn another language outside English. You must be proficient in one other language outside English.
Most of them speak Spanish, right?
Spanish. In my institution, when I arrived there about 13 years ago, I said, okay, is there an African language? They said, no. I introduced Swahili and Yoruba. You see, because I believe that, you know, if my university is going to be a global university, there must be African presence. So I introduced Swahili, which is widely spoken in East Africa. I introduced Yoruba because I really don't want to teach it, because I couldn't find, and so I could have introduced Igbo if I'm an Igbo speaker. You see, and then many kids from Lagos or Ibadan who are in my university will come. Now, when they're confronted with the requirement to take another foreign language outside English, they say, hey, uncle, can you sign this form for me? I can speak Yoruba. I say, no, sit down. Let me give you, speak it first to me. Take this exam. I'll give them an exam. And if they fail, I'll say, oh, and at home, we only speak it this way. No. You have to speak it fully to me, you know, the full sentence, not just the broken Yoruba.
They speak Lagos Yoruba.
Lagos Yoruba. So I send them to the classroom, like other white students who are taking. I say, if white students can learn Yoruba, what is your problem? Your name is Abiola. Your fellow African Americans will ask you where you are from, and you say, I'm Abiola from Nigeria. I'm Yoruba.
Or Abiola.
Abiola. Abiola. The way they spell it too is very funny. And then, so I say, no, this is important. So I would then go through this lecture of the importance of your identity. So language is very important in that regard. And it's the foundation of everything, of civilizations. Because once a language dies, an entire civilization dies.
Which also raises another question to my mind right now. According to the United Nations, UNESCO actually, there are about 4 categories of endangered languages. Yes. There is the, I've forgotten them, but like 2 or 3 of them say that a language is considered endangered if it's only the grandparents that speak the language.
Yes.
The parents themselves cannot speak the language.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's another level of the endangered, languages that it's not only the grandparents now. The grandparents can speak it sparsely. And then there are languages, from that website. In Nigeria, 50 languages that have died.
Yes.
Because they have not been used significantly. How do we now begin to read? Because there are, according to the UNESCO again, there are 29 languages in Nigeria that are endangered.
That's correct. And this is where the first question we are talking about national cohesion becomes relevant. We can achieve national cohesion through language. We have a cultural policy in Nigeria which spells our language as important. But you see, as much as we talk about decentralization, we talk about that we're a nation of federation, we still have this mindset of a unitary government. We want federal government to do everything. No, it's not possible. It is the responsibility of each state to translate the Nigerian cultural policy into what is relevant in each state. There's no reason why in your state we should not be teaching Yoruba, Igbo, and other languages in our schools. Our children in elementary school, primary school, we should expose them to at least 4 languages, 4 Nigerian languages, in addition to English. So that when people are speaking Fufude, at least they are learning the alphabet, they are learning how to count in Fufude in Yoruba. Children can do these things.
Are you saying that we should, don't answer this question yet, but are you saying that we should include this in our education policy?
Yes.
Let's no.
I'm very eager.
We'll take it on after this break. To stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Professor Ogudiro is still with us here, and he believes that we need to review our education policy. Isn't that what he said?
Yes. Our educational policy needs to be reviewed and place language at the center of it, because we're not talking about national unity, talking about national cohesion, a just society. We can achieve those things when, from the little age, our children are exposed to the diversity of this country, not just where they are coming from.
So you don't think that the National Youth Service Corps...
Many of them don't even speak their
their
language.
But it's one thing to speak. It's another thing to write.
Oh.
That's the beginning.
I can speak Yoruba fluently, but I cannot write Yoruba for the life of me.
That's
Yoruba is such a difficult language to write, as far as I'm concerned.
That's true.
One word, depending on where you put the accent, has sometimes 10 meanings.
Well, that's true.
Well, he is here. He's a lecturer in Yoruba, so please educate her.
But what you also realize is that when you begin to look at the history of these languages, many of these languages in Nigeria, for example, have common origins. No, people don't realize that Igbo, Yoruba, Edo, there was a time that this just one language, Benue Kwa, proto-language, about 7,000 BC. And by about 4,000 BC, this language began to split. Igbo went its way, Edo went its way. Then there's a language we call Proto-Yoruboid language, which includes, you want to hear, the present-day Yoruba, Ishekiri, and Igala. These three languages only split about between 300 BC and 300 AD. That's when they began to take their
like when Shekiris speak,
of course, understand.
Yes. And it will seem like the languages are going to split a little further, because I don't know if the Oyo man can understand what the Ondo person is saying. You know?
That's true. Well, you can understand if you are a good traveler, if you have traveled, but yeah, it's difficult. When I do my research among the Owo, for example, I have to strain I'm from Ibadan. So I have to strain my ears very well to understand. but Prof, do you know, Ishekiri is closer to Okun languages in Kogi than Toyo?
Really? But
yes.
I have a friend who is from Owo.
Yes.
When we meet, he speaks his language, I speak Shekiri, and we communicate.
Of course.
We understand each other.
Of course.
Really?
Yes.
Because the Ishekiri Owo, parts of Ijebu, Okun in Kogi State, they belong to the stock that branch out from Proto-Yoruboid. So these kind of stories are important, so that we can see how we are connected. It's true that colonialism brought us together, but we are not divided before. We interacted.
Yes. Now, Prof, when I was in France, there were 3 of us who went from University of Ibadan. I am Shekiri. The other lady was from Asaba. So she was from the Igbo stock. And then the third was Yoruba. And we always communicated in English. And we always got asked, either from people from other African countries or from our white classmates, why don't you people speak Nigerian? You're all from Nigeria. Why are you communicating in English?
Yeah.
Is there a need for a Nigerian language to be spoken by all Nigerians?
Well, in a way, we have been creative in producing what we call pidgin English, right? Or Creole English. That is as far as we have gone. But I think trying to impose a language, on Nigerians today, it means that we have to take one of the largely spoken languages, which I don't think is wise. I don't think it is prudent to do that. And that's why we can maintain our multi-language or multilingual society as we have it, but by encouraging or providing facilities for people to learn other people's languages. Okay. I think that would be the better way forward.
Well, gratifyingly, I still have a copy of your book. I'm not giving you. Yoruba, the new history.
A new history.
A new history.
The e-books.
Yeah.
Yeah, the e-books. Yes.
Good.
The e-books.
I'm about to close this segment, so please don't say anything right now.
No, please, before you go, I must read this from Francis Osianwan, who says that Nigerians must start respecting each other before we can move forward. I wish to praise Professor, because I traveled to Holland and I saw the way people give way to the smallest moving objects.
Yes.
So we
Great.
need to start by respecting each other.
Yes.
And not just each other, but every living, crawling thing.
Correct.
And we need to, we just have to, thank you this morning for making time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you.
This time you probably would have preferred to spend it among the Fulanis in Oyoile.
Well, I enjoy having a conversation with you as well. This is very wonderful.
When are you going back?
Well, I'm going back next year because
your
season
research is still going on.
Research is still going on.
Okay.
Akin Ogudiran is Professor of Africana Studies, Anthropology, and History at the University of North Carolina. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we're back for another conversation shortly. Stay with us.
Thank you for staying with us. Now we're going to look at the ANPA Virtual Medical Mission in partnership with CS Dawn Calabar, Cross River State. If you are a regular watcher of Sunrise, you will remember ANPA because they pay us a visit from time to time. And by the way, ANPA stands for the Association of Nigerian Physicians in the Americas. They have this mission that comes in fairly regularly, and they offer free medical services to the underprivileged in Nigeria. And if I'm not mistaken, every year they pick a particular area which they visit and offer these services. But this year, it seems like it's a completely different ball game because we're talking about virtual medical mission. To tell us more about this, it's my pleasure to welcome, well, they're all joining us virtually. After all, it is a virtual mission. We have Dr. Christopher Okunsari, who is ANPA president. He joins us from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Good morning.
Good morning, Alero. Thanks for having us.
You're so clear, it's like you're next door, kind of. We also have Dr. Cliff Eke, who is the treasurer and coordinator of the medical mission. Hi, Cliff.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good to see you again.
Thank you. And we have Mrs. Onari Duke, who is founder and chairman, Child and Survival Organization of Nigeria, CS Dawn. Thank you for joining us, Mrs. Duke. I'd like to hear your voice, Mrs. Duke.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, I was saying earlier, it looks like I met Dr. Cliff before. Were you here on the mission last year?
Yes, I sat next to you when we gave you support 2 years ago. We couldn't come last year because of COVID.
Understandably. And you are not going to come this year as well because it's a virtual mission this year.
That's right. That's a new reality we face, so we adapted.
Okay, very good. Your vision is a healthier Nigeria in a healthier world. I mean, this thing that ANPA does is commendable. You're all in the Americas, and you still think about the well-being of those of us whom you have left behind. So, President Dr. Okunsari, tell us about this virtual mission for 2021.
So, again, thanks for the opportunity. We are all very much aware of the COVID pandemic. However, we did not allow the COVID pandemic to stop our innovation. On the strength of that, the virtual medical mission represents the same kind of environment where we are now, talking to you virtually. I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So here we are in America, partnering with our colleagues in Nigeria to deliver free medical services. So basically, this process starts by engaging all potential partners, identifying means of sharing the word that we're going to be having a virtual medical mission, and identifying means of communication. So we have regular virtual consultation with our colleagues on ground and patients. We work before the surgical procedure with the surgeons on how that case is going to proceed. And all of these are done virtually, but the partners on ground implement, execute with full collaboration with colleagues from the Association of Nigerian Physicians in the Americas. So technology, human implementation, and the target population on ground.
Okay. If I'm not mistaken, it means that there are no ANPA doctors on ground this year. Am I correct?
Yes, you're correct. But we have collaborators on ground.
So you are working with, well, pardon my using this word, you are working with local doctors.
Understood. We're working with our colleagues. We try to shy away from calling them local.
You understand what I mean. I mean, doctors who are on ground here, but you are giving them the expertise they require to do the various surgeries that they need to do.
Yes, they have the technical skills, so we work with them to actually implement everything that is to the best of their ability to provide the best outcome as well.
Okay. Dr. Ike, why the collaboration with CS Dunn? Why did you choose CS Dunn for this year?
Interesting question. Yes, CS Dunn, I would say, based on the history of CS Dunn, who basically aligns with our mission, which again, our mission is a healthier Nigeria and a healthier world. They are very much interested in providing care to the underserved, people who are disadvantaged and who do not have readily available access to medical care. And pretty much when we set out to do our medical mission, we are looking for partners who have the same vision, who are aligned with our ideas and our mission, and CS Dunn fits that criteria, and that is part of the reason why we chose them this time around.
Okay. Now, Mrs. Duke, tell us a little bit about CS Dunn, if you may.
Yes, sure. CS Dunn, which is Child Survival and Development Organization of Nigeria, is 2 decades old by next year, 2002 being the year of its establishment as a non-for-profit, non-governmental organization that is dedicated to promoting the well-being of the Nigerian child and mother, as well as their security. And essentially, its focus or approach have been towards providing Medicare, which is what we are currently having. This mission forms part of it at one of the hospitals of CS Dunn, which is the Calabar Women and Children Hospital. So this mission is taking place at the Calabar Women and Children Hospital. And the hospital itself is one of CS Dunn's initiative of being able to provide the reach to the underserved, as Chris had mentioned. And the second, prong of approach, is the Medicaid, because as Chris would also tell you, by the time this mission is done, they have donated so much to us, and we have some extra. The last time this mission should have held actually was last year. AMPA was scheduled to be with us, but due to the pandemic, they could not. But prior to then, they had ahead of time sent in lots of consumables and sutures and all the things that were required for the mission. And when they couldn't come again, they advised, and we had to give some of those equipments, consumables, drugs, and other stuff to the teaching hospital here in Calabar, and the hospital are allowed to use some, and also some to General Hospital. So with the support we get from donors, we also help other primary health centers, provide training for them, and which takes us to the third component of what CS Dunn's focus is, which is continuous professional development. As we speak, some training are going on, because our goal is to enhance the quality of life for the vulnerable children and to reduce the maternal and child morbidity and mortality in the country through enhancing the educating programs like what AMPA have incorporated into this particular mission. Okay. And so Yes, we collaborate with government, non-governmental organizations, and other stakeholders to have a participatory approach towards these interventions. Thank you.
Okay. Now, Dr. Cliffeke, you are the coordinator of the medical mission. Might I ask what kind of interventions you hope to bring to the table this time?
Well, again, thanks for having us. First of all, to make this happen was a dream. Like Her Excellency said, we were supposed to be in Nigeria last year in person, just like I saw you 2 years ago. However, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we started deliberating in AMPA, along with our president and other officers involved, to do it virtually, just like we're meeting you now virtually. And it took a lot of preparation. First, you have the right partner, which CS Don is a great one. Number two, we had many, many meetings before the actual mission, where we did needs assessment, we procured equipment and supplies, as Her Excellency has mentioned, which we then sent to Calabar. And then the most important thing, I believe, is the collaboration and getting the volunteers, our colleagues on ground in the locality, to actually achieve what we wanted to do, which is not just medical care to the adults and pediatrics patients, but also surgical care. And we concentrated more on what we know they have the expertise, and just we help them to get it done and done well.
Well, let me ask you, Dr. Okunseri, since this is a virtual mission this year, the first question is raised in my own mind is that of telemedicine. I've been hearing about telemedicine for a while, and seeing that 70% of very serious issues or so happen in rural areas where they don't have access to these kind of facilities, and even if the things were available, getting it to them, is altogether another task, on hand. I'll come to the children angle to it, but how precarious is our challenge of fully implementing telemedicine in the country?
So, Aya, thanks for this question. I will tell you that, yes, this is telemedicine live that we have just pulled off as an organization. And with regards to the question of the rural population, I would also be the first to acknowledge that unlike all other countries in the world, Nigeria has a very high penetration of mobile phones. And I would tell you again that at the beginning of this mission, people had to log onto a site to get a number in line with the COVID protocol. Over 1,500 people were able to get numbers. People were coming from all the surrounding villages. So to me, it's a problem in perception, but in reality, we could address this problem with the high penetration of mobile phones in our country. People have 1, 2, 3 mobile phones, and they're able to speak to people. So I think there is room for telemedicine in our country. I think it is possible to penetrate the rural community. And I also recognize that it's going to interest us if we try, like we have just done now, and seen that it is doable.
Madam, the question, same question to you, but this time perhaps with a little more focus on the issue at hand, Mrs. Duke. Children are clearly the most vulnerable. The maternal mortality figures are still quite scary, and the death of children between ages 1 to 5 is still quite concerning. Talking about telemedicine, is there a role for telemedicine in this? And how do we even begin to consider, much less take action towards stemming this tide?
Yeah, I believe telemedicine as we have now is, it has begun. You know, as Chris mentioned, it indeed has begun. Prior even to the mission commencement, the AMPA already had about 3 cases of infants from, babies. I won't use the medical terms since I'm not a doctor. Maybe Chris would do that. But ocephalos, those are, children that are born without skin covering their stomach. At least that was one of the cases they had to deal with. Children born without skin covering their stomach. And they also have, imperforate anus, babies that were born. We had 2 of them during this period. I don't know if it was a coincidence, but for some reason that happened. That just shows part of the prevalence of, some of the causes for, this is not, of course, most of it, but incidentally, this too happened. And, AMPA was, because collaboration with their local counterparts here, had discussions on the approach to adopt. And so I believe that the children indeed would, are set to benefit greatly from telemedicine, and this which have begun would give, I believe, other institutions and other facilities the confidence that it can be done. Because when we first started this mission and got into preparation of the e-registration, lots of people said, oh, except you want to make this available only for the people who, were educated. But the system was simple, third-party registration was possible. And so if you are not educated, you can have, every household will have some cousin down in a few houses who will be able to register for them. And so people were able to register, speedily. Within, a few days, we have actually had, 150 cases which, for surgery, beyond the registration for medical intervention. And so, yes, it has begun, and they got appointment to be able to come, and it made it really, really, easy, because as CSO, we were concerned, of course, AMPA also, to say we shouldn't try to be solving one and get into another problem, because usually in medical missions like this, you have 5,000, 4,000, up to 7,000, patients coming in for, to get, some sort of help from the mission. And so the mere thought of such, alarming numbers, how do we curb it? It's the first one, caused us to be concerned. But truly, lots of, persons were able to call in, register online, and then they got their screening done. They could do that coming into the hospital facility, or even possible to have the consultation, part of it from their homes. So I would say that I'm glad for the Nigerian child, because irrespective of how complicated the case might be, today with the collaboration between, the entire world, and, having our core member Nigerians, all around the world. And they also incidentally have lots of their colleagues there in America, in the UK, and Canada, who are experts in various fields and willing and, quite able to support the Nigerian counterparts. I see healthcare going really in leaps and bounds, for as long as we continue in this trajectory with telemedicine. Thank you.
Well, you want to?
Yes, Dr. Eke, how were you able to determine at the end of the day which cases to undertake? Because Dr. Okunsari said that there were more than 1,500 applications.
So yes, thank you. That includes the medical, the non-surgical patients, of course. But before the mission, through technology, telemedicine we are mentioning has actually opened a variety of opportunities and made this possible. But we had meetings, like I said before, with our local colleagues, and we were able to, they identified patients who had surgical issues, which actually is very common, especially in the pediatric. Over 80% of the kids that came to the mission came for surgical issues. And we can anticipate or think of why, because they may not be able to afford to take care of these things, but when they hear of free surgery, of course, their parents bring them. So using technology like this, we have electronic health record. I'm able to Me and my colleague surgeons here are able to converse with our local surgeons there. And we actually had patients live that we could examine with the camera through Zoom or through WhatsApp and other electronic health gadgets. They are our platforms. And then we're able to choose the cases that we know will be safe. Especially we're not on ground to offer hands-on support. We wanted to make sure we don't extend ourselves. So we chose the ones that we knew our colleagues felt comfortable doing, and then we supported them with the ideas and other things to make it happen.
Yeah, one of the
so
challenges,
preparation is the key.
Yeah, but you know, one of the things a number of people, maybe your colleagues may also have given you the feedback, is that of network. You know, I don't know how significant a challenge that was, you know, in executing some of these telemedical interventions.
Well, the network as far as internet?
Yes, and perhaps other challenges that you may have encountered.
Okay, some challenges, like we know, this is the first time ever that we know in the world that medical mission of this magnitude has been performed virtually. I mean, we have telemedicine here and there with individual patients. I've done it with some other people in Nigeria, but to have a group of 45 volunteers from the US and 85 or more volunteers from Calabar and CS Don work together, including the lab scientists, the nurses, the doctors, the pharmacists, you name it, everybody working together. It's never been done. And part of our goal was to actually learn from this, collect data, and hopefully set a pace for things like this to happen more in the future. And technology has made it possible that even the person in the village, as Dr. Kunseri mentioned, who has a telephone, can now have access to care. Not just in Nigeria, even here in the United States. The telemedicine is now revolutionized. And we're able to partner with someone that created electronic health record for us also that helps us to achieve this. So it's first time, many challenges, as you know. Besides being the first time, there were some glitches, and we took note of them, what to do. Of course, there's no hands-on, but we used that as opportunities to actually learn. Every day we had a debriefing of 2 to 3 hours with the local providers to find out each thing that we could do better so that the next day we improved on it. And I guarantee that next time we have this kind of outing, it will be very, very successful, even more than it is now. But we accomplished a lot.
Well, just before we take...
To give you some numbers, we did, we saw over 1,500.
Go on, please go on.
Yeah, we saw, like our president had mentioned, about 1,500 patients. We did over 64 operations, and some are still ongoing. And besides operations and medicines, we also had education. We had a workshop last weekend called Helping Babies Survive, where our colleagues there were taught about basic things to help the newborn. As you know, infant mortality is very high. And as we speak now, we have an educational program on emergency medical care going on, again, to transfer knowledge. And this afternoon, we're doing basic life support, training about 15 to 20 individuals who will then train other people. So more to come. Thank you.
Yes, I was going to ask Dr. Kunseri, and I will, you know, but let me just let you know, we're going to take a short break now, but I'd like to take a look at some of the items, you know, under the mission of AMPA. The vision is very clear, but the mission includes research. How does that play a role? How do we transfer those data into developmental items for healthcare delivery in the country? After this break. Thanks for staying with us. Dr. Kunseri, so part of the mission of AMPA is to seek collaborative research opportunities in the international medical community and contribute to improved healthcare in Nigeria, the Americas, and worldwide. Medical professionals in Nigeria will tell you that one of their biggest challenges is that of research, especially the pharmaceuticals who have advocated, or rather been thinking seriously about local medicines and stuff like that. How wide a gap do you think the research gap is, the research deficit is in healthcare delivery in Nigeria as far as you can see?
Ayo, thank you for this question. Another hat I wear as a professional is I'm a researcher. So your question is pretty much, on point for me here and of huge concern. So let's break this down. First and foremost, it is very clear that there is a huge research gap between developing countries and the developed country, or developing countries and the developed countries. So let's take Nigeria, for example, and America as a comparison. When you look at the availability of data for policy or for clinical intervention or for pharmaceutical use, we are pretty much behind, and it's worrisome. And it's interesting that there are so many barriers to this, from funding to skills to institutions that are ready to encourage research. So let's move this one notch. The COVID pandemic is a good example. AMPA during this mission provided 1,200 COVID testing kits as part of this mission. And as part of this mission, we were very, very lucky to be highly supported by the DG for NAFDAC that made the process of delivering 1,200 COVID testing kits to Nigeria, and we're going to collect data and transmit the data to NCDC. It will interest you that we tested 500 patients with negative results for COVID. And we were anxious. What is happening? Why is this happening? And we started asking, do we have data about the prevalence of COVID beyond what is being produced by NCDC? What is the data? What is the incidence? What is the prevalence here? Prevalence means current disease. Incidence means new disease. We were unable to find. So what did we do? Anecdotally, we believe that the results we're getting, people are not traveling much. Maybe there's not a lot of patients or a lot of people who have COVID in Calabar, as the case may be. So we intend to share our COVID testing kits in other areas that have been identified as hotbeds, Lagos or Abuja. So I think it's real. We do not have data in Nigeria, or we do not collect sufficient levels of information to drive our policies and our programs. But just like you heard Dr. Eke share with you, because of what we do and the kind of exposures we have, we believe that data is critical to clinical intervention, evidence-based care, evidence-based program, evidence-based public policies. And without data, we are really not ready. Look at the vaccines, for example. If we had sufficient data, we had sufficient information, I don't see why our country, Nigeria, cannot produce vaccines. We used to do that 20, 30 years ago. But we're not doing that now for a variety of reasons. So we have room to grow. I believe, like I tell my colleagues out here, when you see challenges, I see opportunities, and I take advantage of those opportunities to make sure we can do things just like what AMPA has done. We did not allow COVID to stop us from doing our medical mission. It did happen for the first year, but the second year we chose to do something different. And I'm happy and glad that we were able to pull up the medical mission and recognize that we are also collecting data following this medical mission to be able to publish our work so that other people can learn from it, other organizations can learn from it and do something on a much larger scale than we have been able to do at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All I can say now is thank you to ANPA. Thank you to all the doctors involved in this annual mission, bar last year, for reasons that we all understand and appreciate. Thank you all for coming out to help us, the ANPA doctors. I'd like to thank those who joined us this morning, the AMPA doctors, Dr. Christopher Okunseri, who is the president, Dr. Cliff Eke, who is the treasurer and coordinator of the medical mission, as well as the founder and chairman of Child Survival and Development Organization of Nigeria, CS Don, Mrs. Onari Duke. You are the beneficiaries this year. We look forward to seeing who the beneficiaries will be next year. Thank you all very much for coming to talk to us about this. Well done, AMPA.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Sunrise will return in just a moment with the home stretch. Stay with us. Welcome back. Ayo is cheating.
What did I do?
Well, we have a UK-based singer, actress, and TV presenter with us, and her name is Sophia Godwin.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. What's your stage name, by the way?
Sophia. It's the same pronunciation, but just different spelling.
Let me tell you how it is spelled. S-O-P-H-U dash.
H-Y.
P-H-Y.
P-H-O-Y. Okay. Dash.
Yeah.
Y-A-H.
Just yeah.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
That's Yahweh.
Okay. All right. Sophia
That's right.
is our guest today. She's a dynamic, and you were going to say something, are you?
No, I thought you were intimidated by something. I wanted to comfort you.
Thank you very much. How very thoughtful of you.
Thank you.
Sophia, please ignore my partner. He gets this way sometimes. Now, tell us about you. How come you ran away to the UK?
Oh, my God. I didn't run away.
Okay.
Just like every other person, just, seeking greener pastures and better opportunities. That was why I left when I did. And since I left, I've achieved quite a lot to the glory of God. Yeah, so.
A Nigerian singer abroad. Tell us about how you achieved all this success. Because there are plenty of Nigerian singers here who find a huge market here.
Yeah, which is very good. Though in the UK, the people there haven't really embraced gospel music like it is done in Nigeria, Well, we're getting there. Having said that, at least we have concerts, church programs, awards where I perform, and all of that. And then in 2012, I was a member of the choir that did the theme song for the Olympics.
Okay.
Yes, in United Kingdom, yes.
Awesome.
You've been away that long?
Yeah, of course. I've been away that long.
So what would you say is the reason for the resistance, so to speak, to gospel music in the UK?
I think from what I have seen, it's because people embrace the secular music more, and people who really embrace the Christian music are people in the church. But you see, that is why I'm trying to make my own music a bit different from what is in the market at the moment, and that's why I do hip-hop and R&B. Though I have, in recent time, done some Afro beats and all of that. Like you remember, my first album, I had a song called Hail Him. I have Belong, which is a techno house beat, and then, which is widely accepted in the UK. Yeah.
About 2 weeks ago, we had a male gospel singer here whose song sounded, and I was saying to him, but if I hear that beat, I would want to get up and dance.
So,
And he says, well, it's a way of bringing everybody into gospel music.
Exactly.
You shouldn't make it too churchy, or sing quotes. My coinage, by the way. Because you want young people to also sing gospel music. And if they want to dance to it, they're free to also get up and dance.
Yeah, and that
Is
has
that the
been
aim of this one?
Yeah, and that's my target, to bring the young people together. Because I got born again when I was really young, when I was 13 years old. So I just felt with my music, I would be able to bring the young people to Christ. Because if you look at the churches in the United Kingdom nowadays, a lot of young people don't go to church. That's because of how a lot of people
Don't go to church, period.
yeah, but
It's not just
mostly
young people.
Young people don't go to church, you know. But you know, if the music is good, then you can bring young people to church. So that's what I'm trying to attain or achieve with my music.
even in this age and time, it's perhaps even more precarious now that there is COVID-19. So everyone is maintaining all the social distance possible and justifying their social distance.
Exactly.
As a result
Which
of
means
that.
sitting at home. I'm not going to church.
Which means
Exactly.
sitting
That's
at
kind
home
of
and not going to
distance,
church.
yes.
So how do you evolve in that kind of a scenario?
Okay, in that kind of scenario, what I did during the COVID-19 was, because I thought to myself, before the COVID-19, I was supposed to have a concert in London on June 13th, 2020. But we had to cancel because of COVID. But before then, we already, all the guest artists was confirmed. Sinach was supposed to be there, she was confirmed. Tope Alabi was confirmed. Chevelle Franklin was confirmed, Don Moran. A lot of artists were confirmed. And they were like, Sophia, what's going on? What's going on? Like, let's keep our fingers crossed and see what happens. And then Chevelle Franklin's husband was like, oh, but they say it's not that much, the COVID thing. But before you knew it, boop,
Lockdown.
the thing went up. So we had to then cancel. And then when we did that, I just thought to myself, so what do I do to, you know, keep the voice going? So I bought a speaker, a massive speaker. I bought some microphones. I just bought stuff online. And I set up a little studio in my bedroom. And then I had a green screen at the back. So what I do is, then I bought this ring stand for recording. So what I do is, I record myself, I sing, I use backing track, I sing, then I do the post-production, then I send it out to people. And I post on my Instagram page and all my social media. So that way, I'm still able to connect with people and
Coronavirus is the
Carry on.
mother of innovation. Innovation.
And how well was that received?
Amazing. Amazing.
What?
Go
on, please.
Okay, it was received with open arms, I would say. Initially, I was doing Western songs, and then someone said to me, my PR said to me, Sophie, why not? You are Igbo. Just do Igbo song. And you can speak Yoruba, you can, you know, you can do Oriki, all those things, even though you're not Yoruba. Do Yoruba song, just have something, you know, something very inclusive. I thought, okay. That's a good idea. So what I did, I spoke to a friend of mine who lives in Qatar. I said to him, look at what my PR just said. Can you do me a beat to this song, this Igbo song? Then I gave him the song. He did that. So I played it, I sang it. If people were calling me when I said that one out, they're like, oh, Sophie, this is good, this is amazing. Oh, we love the way you would sing. I'm like, okay. So have I not been singing well on this? You know? And then when I did the Yoruba one, oh my God. The people went boom. They're like, oh, you can sing Yoruba like this? I didn't know. Blah, blah. And it's been amazing. It's been amazing.
You said something about your new single the other time that you because a good number of people have also often said that if a message is to get to people, it's easier to get to them through music.
That's right.
What's this new message you're trying to put out?
Okay, so during the course of COVID-19, again, there's a song I wrote titled Stop the Hurt. It's a song on domestic violence. So I just thought to myself, because during the COVID-19 in UK, the rate of domestic violence skyrocketed. A lot of people were put in refuge, a lot of women. It was too much. And that's because they are in the house with a perpetrator. So there's nowhere to go. The man that goes to work in the morning comes back in the evening, or probably hangs out with his friend after work, comes back probably at 10 a.m., is home every day, every week, every month, and then the woman is there. So it's spiraled out of hand. So I thought to myself, okay, I wrote the song 2018. Why not just release the song now? So I went to the studio, did the recording, and I released it in September 21st. So it's just a song that talks about domestic violence, the impact of domestic violence on the society, on human beings, on everyone around you, on children, and all of that. That's what it's about.
And what kind of reception have you had from that?
I've had a very, very good reception because I released the track in support of Women's Aid. Women's Aid is a charity organization in the United Kingdom that looks after women who have been through abuse and girls who have been through abuse. So I released it to support them, to support the work they do, and to say thank you for all they do. So all the proceeds from the sales of the track, because it's just a single that was sold for 99p, all the proceeds from the sale of the track was given to Women's Aid, just to support the work they do.
You are the music ambassador for International Women of Power.
Yes.
What exactly is International Women of Power?
International Women of Power is like is an organization that empowers women. It's an organization that encourages women to be better, to be the better them. So I'm representing them in the music part of it. Okay. We have other ambassadors as well. So we've been, but with the COVID-19, things has slowed down. And so we're hoping that hopefully by next year or towards the end of this year, things will pick up. Yeah, it's been...
You're also
UK is opening up now. You know, the lockdowns are being lifted gradually.
Gradually. They have to do it gradually. And again, you know, with the COVID-19, so many industries have been impacted. The entertainment industry, hospitality industry, the travel industry. In fact, Virgin had to close their branch in Gatwick Airport because of COVID.
Well, we're gradually winding down now, but tell us, you know, you've had quite some influences here and there. You've talked about a good number of them, but what is the world to expect from Sophia within how many years?
Okay, a lot. You need to expect a lot. I'm saying that because, number one, I'm in uni at the moment, and the course I'm doing in uni is digital film production. So I act as well, like you know, I'm an actress. So, but I want to do the production side of films, and I want to do it well, because I believe in doing things well. So I'm in uni at the moment. Hopefully I'll be finishing in 2023, and hopefully, by God's grace, I want to set up my own production company, begin to do my own films, documentaries, and, you know, soaps, shoot music videos, and all sorts. Again, there's something I want to say. I have looked at, you know, as a film student, I watch movies now with a very critical eye. I watch it differently. I've noticed that most of our movies, Nollywood, with all due respect, please, lacks what is called tone and visual style. Most of our movies is just the same.
What is tone and what is visual style?
Okay, tone is the tone the movie should have. Like if you watch Hollywood movies or movies made abroad, you notice that some scenes are gray, some scenes are like bluish, some scenes are like reddish. That's what it's called, the tone of each scene. We don't have that in our movies. I was speaking with Doliona Chukwu, and she was like, "Oh my God, Sophie, yeah, you have to finish quick. I just, you know, let's hit the market." You know, we need to change the narrative in film production. I'm happy that most of our Nollywood movies are on Netflix. I watch them and I like them, but I believe there's still room for improvement. Yeah.
I hear it's the biggest room in the world.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
The room for improvement.
But you will also agree that there has been some improvement. Because I
Definitely.
remember a few years ago we had that Lancelot Imaswen here, and I was telling him that my issue with Nollywood movies is that I must have the remote in my hand. Because one scene, it's at this level, and the next scene comes along and it's so loud you have to turn it down. then the next scene comes along, you have to turn it up again.
Sound problem.
Modulation of the sound.
Yeah, sound.
But there seems to be a little improvement in that. I mean, we're improving every day. We're learning every day. And it's evident in the kinds of, first, in those days, you could tell the end of the story once you saw the beginning.
Definitely.
You will even tell the story of the movie in the soundtrack. But just one last one with you, Sophia.
Okay.
Influences. You have been influenced greatly. How are you influencing younger musicians, younger music makers who are based in Nigeria?
Okay, by God's grace, I have very good following on Instagram. And what I do is, sometimes they send me their tracks. They come to my DM because I'm one of those people who I don't look down on people. I don't know because I have a verified page. You know, people verified page like to, I don't do that. I try to reply all my DMs as much as I can. And I have those very young people saying, oh, auntie, I'd like to play keyboard for you when you're around, when you're singing. I like to play drums. I'm like, yes, definitely. If I have a concert, you would play for me. And then someone will say, oh, auntie, can you give me your email? Let me send you what I have done in the past. I'm like, yeah, why not? This is my email. And some of them, when they're about to release a single, they're like, auntie, can you listen to it and tell me what you think? And I do. I don't put myself up there and say, oh, no, I don't do that. I make sure then if I need to give them advice, then I say, oh, okay, you see this place is too fast. Your words are not clear. Can you change it? And then...
It sounds like that's all you do. That's all the music. Is that all? Is that the only place all you live on? Or maybe, there's a fashion shop somewhere, virtually, to sell perfumes and stuff like that. I'm just asking.
You mean aside music, what else I do? I was working in market research before I got into uni. At the moment, I'm doing full-time uni because I want all my concentration at one place now.
Uni must be making a lot of money, don't you think? I'm just saying.
Well...
I'm sure she still finds time to say.
Then, as an influencer, I get paid for people to advertise on my page.
Influence.
Yeah.
And you're an ambassador.
I'm an
you get paid for being
an
ambassador as well.
God's grace, yeah.
Okay.
Which
little here, little there. And,
all right. Sophia, our artist of the week, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you
Sophia
for having
Godwin,
me.
Gospel singer, TV presenter, and actress.
Thank you so much.
And Sophia rounds up Sunrise for this day, the 8th day of May, 2021. A fresh edition comes your way next week, which is the 15th of May. I'm Alero Edu, wishing you a very happy weekend. All the best. And my partner says...
In case you haven't had your cup of cocoa or cocoa, maybe it's not too late. Amaya Makinde, it's almost lunchtime.